Peace, YouTube. This is Fleur Broom coming to you today to discuss another topic of discussion. Hey, family, how are you doing? Like, I kind of just want to get into the madness in the Matrix, the Mandela Effect. I think now as we're converging back into 0 point, a lot of people are noticing or having all sorts of idiosyncrasies occurring in their daily lives consistently. I'm so sorry. I'm a little hoarse today. Literally. But needless to say, they're experiencing all these idiosyncrasies. I mean, I'm getting calls and phone calls and experiencing myself, like people disappearing from their matrix and their level of reality, places changing, sometimes names, logos are changing, ingredients on labels are changing overnight. I mean, all sorts of really odd glitches, what we consider to be quote unquote the Mandela Effect, are occurring on all levels. And it's interesting because before, when we were noticing aspects of the Mandela Effect, they're very slight. Some things were maybe if you remembered a childhood book, it was like 2 letters apart, something a little off like that. Titles and names of stories or movies were changed just a little bit. But now we're starting to see some major changes in people's realities coming into fruition. And it's interesting that it is now occurring almost daily, whereas before we were getting little bits and pieces of what we consider to be the Mandela Effect. So, and even I always tell you, I'm a ingredient Nazi. And if I don't make something myself, I am the queen empress of making everything from scratch. My detergent, my sometimes hair stuff, I buy it sometimes, but I love making things, soaps. I make mostly everything, especially things to eat. If I can't grow it, then I'll buy it, but I always study the integrity of a company. If they have, really questionable business practices, I don't really rock with them. With clothing, everything, I'm pretty fanatical about those things. So anyway, even with the products that I use, for an example, about a slight Mandela Effect that it's has affected a product that I'm using. I love to only use maple syrup especially for my little people. If I make anything from them, I make it from scratch. I use heirloom grains like spelt or teff flour, which is what I've done for a while. Thanks to Dr. Sebi years ago, I just started to acclimate natural, holistic heirloom grains into our daily nutritional habits. So anyway, spelt flour, but I always make, pancakes or something or waffles with the spelt. And I use maple syrup, grade B. So of course I go to the market where I always get my maple syrup B, and I had one that ran out in the fridge. I was like, okay, I'll just go pick up another one. I go and pick it up, and I notice that it says grade A. I take a deep breath. I'm kind of upset because that place only had one that had grade B. So I was like, okay, I've got to do, Whole Foods, because I know they're most likely, they'll definitely have grade B maple syrup. So I go there. I'm not too happy about it because I like, again, as fanatical as I am about certain things, I'm really routine based. So I love going to the same places, getting my same things because I've investigated and it's had integrity. But anyway, I went over there. I'm looking for grade B. There's nothing. I'm like, what the heck is going on? I look, I see one. It's their brand, and it's organic and it says grade B. And I'm cool. Go pay for it. I'm out. I get home. I look at it. It says grade A, and it says previously B. Now, yes, granted, they might have changed all the grade A's to grade B or previous. I don't know what that is about. I'm just saying that's a slight show up of ingredients changing. And then I look in the fridge at my old little bit that I had left, the old maple syrup grade B I had, and the label's missing. Listen to me. The labels don't go missing, and no one's ripped it off. It's not that serious. It was in the fridge. It no longer had the label that said grade B. So that label was missing. Remember, the first store that I went to was the maple syrup. Anyway, I know I'm sidebarring, but this is showing you that even when you start to notice the glitch, the change, you'll go to try to verify that you had the original whatever it was, and there will be no remnants of it. There won't be any evidence, just like Bernstein Bears. I remember Bernstein, not Bernstein. And I've had the book, I'm a woman of a certain age. I read that. I remember the book's title and name because I had to memorize it as a child, and I had to spell it out on certain papers. And I go to look for the book that I've had in my possession for years, and it's gone. Just so happens at the same time we have Bernstein Bears come out. So this is what I'm saying, things like that. Like, I've had people who are dating, who are with mates, and all of a sudden, like, next day they wake up, their mates' personalities are totally different now. Don't get me wrong, we have a lot of bipolar disorders undiagnosed occurring in the matrix. It's not something like that. But the person that they're with are no longer reminiscent of the person that they went to sleep with. Almost like this person totally changed. Now, yes, we talk about biobots and syntheticas and clones and replacements. I mean, those are always, in our realm, there's always a probability that they could have been replaced. But we're talking about a consistent basis of people having people change. And what I've noted, this is just my interpretation, is that we are flipping in and out of parallel universes. Remember, we are living in a multiverse. We are consistently coinciding and existing in our realm, but there are other realms on top seemingly overlapping each other, that are aspects of ourselves living and coexisting in a parallel with little changes, little differences that occur because it's not the same existence, same placement of existence of time. It's just a little different. But there are variances of you in parallel universes that are not that little difference, that are major differences, because it goes along, there's different aspects of you living out your life in different ways, in different parallels, and it can go from very small, minuscule to very extreme. But I'm noticing that the extremes are showing up in what we consider to be our reality, including myself. Like, something like little things, like I know for a fact that students used to sign their papers sign their names on the left side, top left side. Students are now signing their name on the top right side. Now, remember, I did go to school later, but that's something that changed overnight, because now they're signing their names on the top right side in my existence right now, and their date and name on the same right side top paper, as opposed to before. And I asked if this was always the case, and the people are telling me, even professors are saying, yes, this is the case. This has always been. We've always signed our names on the top right, always. And these are older people, so I'm thinking, oh wow, snap. Oh snap, I changed parallel universes. Like, little things, like I'll notice, like, the color of things have changed, the names of the colors have changed. There was something else that changed. Oh, I forgot. I had a friend who is no longer the same person. I mean, they're cool. I don't know if it's me flipping in and out of the different parallels, or the parallels converging into one, which they're going to. So I'm getting little aspects and bigger aspects coming into my realm of consciousness, along with a host of other people. But even a friend that I have is no longer the same person. Their propensities are totally different. It's odd. Even people that I haven't seen for a while that were part of my old paradigm are kind of showing up almost like they weren't ever gone. So, I mean, yes, before, many of us would be diagnosed with sociological disorders and dissociative disorders, and be locked up with the rest of the quackadoodles. And that's why I say sometimes, it's like, it's nice that we all speaking together and collectively communicating what's occurring, so that we know that this is going on a mass level. The Mandela Effect is in it to win it right now. It's gone AWOL. All aspects of our reality has changed. I'm grateful that I'm in the reality where Hillary Clinton didn't win. But I will tell you, family, in the other reality, she won. And that convergence of her winning is trying to come into our paradigm. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a fan of Donald Trump. People were saying, there's a lot of political conversations. I don't really get into that because it's not that serious. You will be in the reality that is suitable for your frequency and vibration. I'm keeping it real. So even with the convergence, you will still be in the higher levels of the frequency that you're resonating with, the vibratory frequencies that you're which you have on you, which you're holding. So it's not going to be like you're living in Fort Knox, or going into the prison crazy world, unless that is part of your frequency. Like if you're a wild and you're just, out of control, just, more materialistically based, maybe violent, maybe angry. Yes, even with the convergence, you will still go into parallels, but they would be parallels that are applicable to your frequency. So in the parallel that I am in now, Hillary Clinton lost and Trump has won. But I will tell you, family, the other parallel that she was existing in, that she won, it's trying to converge into this one, which is interesting. I'm just going to observe without judgment, so that I stay in the reality that is best suitable for me. So I wanted to get into how we can consciously. Now, this is the fun part. I talk about it coming without us purposefully wanting it to or drawing ourselves into it. But what about the aspect of us taking full control of going into a reality that we desire, which has more of the outcomes that are more to our liking? So I found a trick that I've been doing, and I love it because it's actually working. I'm starting to practice, and some of us talk about this on my show, Aquarius Rising Ninth Gate, which Thursday we're going to go back into the Mandela Effect and to into the temporal vortex, which is like, temporal vortex is time. You're noting the time changes. Like there is an association with time and something. So it's almost like having synchronicities, like a temporal vortex. It's like a synchronicity occurring in real time. Like you note something in your head and it occurs. That is us kind of flipping into the parallel. I know it gets a little complicated because we've got to get into a little bit of quantum physics, but it is thoughts or things. Remember, we're no longer in 3D, we're in 4D and above. Some of us are actually permeated through to 5D. We may not be there consistently, but we're kind of going in and out of that level. So that being said, in 4D, everything it's really time-based. It's your concept of time and manipulation, or noting time in itself, because you can't really change something that you have no concept of. But 5D is more based in, it is what it is, and we all see the same. Whereas 4D, you can see the Eiffel Tower, and I can see maybe the L'Arc de Triomphe, in Paris. We can see totally different things and be in the same space and time. You know what I mean? It's just from our perspective and what we are creating from our mind, and it is manifesting into reality. That being said, we can control going in and out, permeating in and out of the realities that we want or we feel more suitable. So this is what I practice. I said, okay, I never want to come from a victim's point of view or like an innocent bystander. I always want to be proactive in my life. I want to make the choice, and I want to be in control of my own ship. Okay, I want to drive my own vehicle. That being said, I've decided to go into the parallel. Like I consciously know that I flipped to the reality where the Wicked Witch of the West, Hillary Clinton, was not president. I purposefully did that. I didn't realize it because I knew I knew with the divine feminine energies she was coming in, but I cognitively in my mind, desired something otherwise, where I felt the reality would be more advantageous to my energies or more applicable to my frequency, I permeated out of that reality. Thank goodness. But the other one, not to say that the other parallel will be better. See, you got to be careful, because you may flip into to another reality that's a parallel existence, but maybe one thing you desired, you got, but there's a host of other things going on behind the scenes that you didn't realize change as well, and they may not be as advantageous to you. So you have to be very mindful to be super specific and come from the base of higher frequency, meaning that you're coming from not so much the ego, not so much from a materialistic, very narcissistic point of view. Now, I'm not judging that, but I'm just saying, if you're coming from that as a base, chances are when you flip into a parallel universe by choice, you are going to flip into an alternate version of yourself's reality that will be just as based in that material narcissistic world, with more sociopaths, maybe more than before in your previous realm of existence. So make sure that you raise your frequency. If you're going to do jumping to realities, make sure you raise your frequency and desire for you to be harmonious with your new reality that you're choosing. Always come from balance. Go to balance, okay? So that you're not flipping into reality where I know of one incident where someone flipped into the reality where they were with the person that they most desired. It was there was a base reason why they went there. They're going there for what they wanted to be with their mate that they desired. And they got to that parallel, but they're in that parallel, one of their parents was not living. They would have passed on. So in the reality that they went into, that parent that they had that was so supportive in that one parallel, where they had a beautiful, loving parent, remember, they're desiring love. It's almost like they gave up an aspect of the love and support to get the one that they wanted. So remember, everything is balanced in the universe. So when they went to the other parallel, they had that loving support from their mate, but the one who was supplying them with that before was one of the parents, and that parent had passed on. So remember, with the desire, sometimes if you're in perfect harmonious balance, which we always usually are, even if it seems chaotic, if you permeate into another parallel, you could go to a perfect situation for the one thing you desire, but everything will be off. So just be mindful of that. So I'm telling you. So I found a way to go into the parallels. What I do is I shift an aspect of my thought of things. And I don't really concentrate on it. I'm really have mastered manifestation, obviously, because I'm out of the perimeters of the matrix, and most of my daily life, and then I engage in a matrix as need be. But outside of the matrix, I have pure manifestation. Everything I desire, need, want comes so easily and effortlessly without any thought or pattern, really, at this point. But when I'm in the matrix, I have to super concentrate, and I have to keep more focused, because the matrix has time. It's heavy. Everything is in my way that I see things, it can appear chaotic when I'm in the matrix. So I have to be very mindful when I'm in there to stay focused and grounded. So I tend to do grounding things when I enter the matrix, especially if it's a long period of time. But I have learned to, if I desire to go into a parallel now, what I do is I place my thought on the desired outcome of whatever it is that I'm seeking. So I don't know. I'm not a sports person, but I'll keep it base because it's easier to understand if I keep it more simple. Like if I had, I don't know, I was a Cubs fan. What is that, baseball? And I wanted to see them win the World Series, right? So I would see myself existing with the winning, like, how they have the shirts, like when you win the World Series, you get the World Series shirt with the date and everything. I could envision myself with the shirt. I could hear the cheering, and I can see the celebratory things. I could see the archives and the newspapers with them winning on the cover. I could see the coach or the players celebrating or whatever they get. I don't know if they get rings if like they do in football and the NBA. I could imagine myself walking around talking to others that I know, and the conversation is like, oh, remember that game? It was great. We won. I will put myself in that frequency. I'm very imaginative. God bless my parents. They allowed me to just be. So my imagination has allowed me also probably to be in a world where I can conceive and experience things in a very non-reality connected kind of way. And it has benefited me now. As a child, it was a little hard, but a little challenging, but it's worked. So I do that. And then what happens is that because I'm already I'm engrossing myself in that world. I've already seen it. I am it. I am it. I'm existing in that. In my mindset, I'm existing where the Cubs have won. I know it's just what it is. And bam, I go into the reality where that exists. And that's kind of how I've learned to permeate into other parallel existence for myself. I try to leave it on a higher level because I do want to stay in balance, but because again, you can go to another one. Like if I desire something that is a little base, and when I say base, very materialistic, real, it's not low vibrational, but it's still in the realms of control and manipulation. If I do that, then what happens is that I go into reality where that exists, but there is still the level of a base, and something else will be, whatever I get, but there will be a replacement of something. So something may be offset because of that new desire. Like, again, base is like material things, or base desire of lust, or quote unquote, what you consider to be love. Love is also, I'm real big on phonetics. Like the word love in reverse is evil. So even though it is a word that's utilized so normally, and I do still use the word, but I understand that there is a level of the opposition, because every time you love someone, chances are you'll go through the inversion at one point if you're with them long enough, or it'll come around in another way where you experience the evil side of connection or quote unquote love. Okay. So I try not to, I like words like adoration. I have an affinity. You'll always hear I have an affinity. I have an affinity for a few. I have an affinity for you, my family. So I try to use words like that. Anyway, I was a sidebar, and I'm noticing also, if we're gonna get on this conversation, that the vibration of Cali showing up strong again. Remember, Cali showed up. They had an image on the Empire State Building. What was this, like over a year ago? An image of Cali. And it was a chaotic picture, like her tongue out. Cali is to males, they'll mostly say she's a destroyer. She's actually a loving, nurturing goddess energy that is here to balance the ties. I noticed a lot of males call her chaotic and negative, but really Cali was a balancer. But that Cali energy is coming back. There's a movie with Tom Cruise. Thank you to one of my Twitter peeps family. Put me on The Mummy, and Narwa also put me on to The Mummy, the movie that's coming out with this. They find a sarcophagus or a tomb that they extradite. They bring it up, and it's the unleashing of one of the gods. It's interesting. And she comes to level the playing field, and they make it seem like she's coming to destroy. But I think in destruction comes rebirth. So it's all from your perspective, from your level of perspective, coming from your perspective, that you see things from a certain way. Like I could be sitting on the right and you could be sitting from the left, and your perspective of things will be way different based on where you're sat in your line of view. Same with myself. So You know, that's why it's mindful. We have to be mindful of judgment of someone, because where someone sits is how they see things, you know. And we know that it just takes for a little bit of a rotation for you to be sitting in the same position. So try not to judge a person's perspective or their life based on where you're sitting right now, because chances are you're going to do a 360 and sit in the same position eventually, especially if you place judgment on something. So anyway, I want to talk about the Mandela Effect. It's causing people to go mad, though. Like, people feel like they're going crazy. You're not, though. You're just noticing it. And that's why I say try not to put judgment on any changes you see and what you consider to be the Mandela Effect. Don't judge it. Even if it's something crazy that shows up. Don't judge it. Observe it from a non-judgmental point of view. Observe without attachment, without a mental attachment to it, and keep it moving. Because if you put too much focus on it, you might pull yourself, because also you could be observing another parallel. A lot of times the news on television is other parallel universes that are existing. It's not your world, but it's a world that you're observing. So be mindful not to draw emotional connection to what's occurring on television, because if you do, you'll draw yourself into that parallel universe. And that's why they purposefully do it. They want you to draw yourselves into the negative, low frequency worlds. So if you are watching television and you're engaged in things and you have you're invoked emotionally, you may be pulled into that parallel world that exists. A lot of times the news that you're seeing or you're observing is another reality, especially if it's not something that you could taste, touch, or verify yourself personally. If you can, like, it's in your neighborhood, you've seen it, you saw the smoke outside, there was a fire, that's something that's verifiable. And you can claim that may be a reality in your world. But if it's not something that's personally in your world, I just say you observe it and keep it moving. You can throw it in the archives as a reference to something later on, but try not to draw too much into it. Oh, I made this too long. Anyway, so we'll get into Mandela Effect. We have to on Thursday on my show, Aquarius Rising 9th Gate, 9 p.m. Eastern. Check it out. It's a caller show, so you guys can always call in. We always like to talk to each other and connect the dots and share how we experience it. It's a wonderful family. You're more than welcome to join us, Aquarius Rising 9th Gate on Blog Talk. You'll see on my Blog Talk video, I usually put the new show every week, so you can always catch the link there, or I'll put it on this one here when I create the show. But we're going to the Mandela Effect, and we're going to go into the temporal vortex. That we're going to get deep into that. Because and I want you to feel like you're being supported by the universe, that it's not just madness. The multiverses are converging. Yes, that's why we're getting so much of the acknowledgement that there's a change, but you have to be mindful not to feel like you're being overwhelmed by it either. So we'll get into that. But anyway, I hope all's well, and we'll chat later. Peace. Fleur Brune.